one of the fastest boats in the world.
Look at that one right there.
Right out front, dominating the race, right off the start.
There was probably never more than 200 or 300 yards between the two boats.
The New York native has broken every major record in powerboating.
Stuart Hayim. When he revs up his engine, it often means that something is being done to fight cancer.
When I started this, I was 5 or 6 years recovered from being sick, and I had 3 missions. I wanted to win races. I'm competitive. I wanted to raise money for cancer research, not to be dribbled away in paying rent or advertising, but for real research monies. And I wanted to give 2 words, hope and inspiration. I wanted to show people that there could be smiley faces at the end of a story like that. The idea of the boat was to, in effect, make loud hospital visits and use the boat to give the same hope and the same inspiration. And along the way, we won a lot of races, and along the way, whatever I won went back to the Don Monte people, because the Monte family pays all the bills themselves. So whatever money they raise goes right to doctors to do research. No dilution.
Don Monte was my little brother. He passed away in 1972. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and 1 week after my brother passed, my parents were committed to carrying his life on through the Don Monte Memorial Research Foundation.
All of our research in the laboratory is focused on blood cancers, specifically acute myeloid and lymphoid leukemias. At Cold Spring Harbor, there's a long-standing tradition of really innovation and kind of swinging for the fences. Generally, through government funding, we are rewarded for very conservative research goals. And so to do high-impact research, we very much rely on philanthropies to do kind of high-risk, high-yield research. And so funding through the Monte Foundation is really essential for the type of work that we're doing.
Stories of hope and inspiration are critical for our patients. And inspiration can come from many different forms: music, poetry, faith, spirituality, or just a visit from a survivor.
When I found out I was diagnosed with lymphoma, I was really shocked. I couldn't believe it, because nobody in my family has a history of cancer, and I never thought I would be the one to have cancer. When I hear stories of cancer survivors, it makes me feel really happy, because I know that there's not just a lot of people dying from cancer, there's a lot of people actually surviving from cancer, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The doctors could say one thing, but they haven't really been through it. So, and the people that actually been through it and they tell you the stories, it gives me confidence that I'll be a survivor too.
Through the years, my mother, Tita Monte, met many, many patients, but Stuart Hayim stood out in her mind and in her heart. Stuart has dedicated his life to helping the next Don Monte, and he does it on a regular basis. Will never forget us, and we will never forget Stuart.
Technology has had 22 years to move forward and make this record far more easy to break. Someone should have been able to do it by now. Go try and take it. If you can't, then I'm going to get off this chair, I'm going to get off my butt, and I'm going to go build yet another boat, and I'm going to do it, because I know that I know how to take advantage of the technology. If you don't want to, I'm going to do it.
It's early morning, August the 8th, 2012, and Stu Hayim and John Tomlinson are leaving the harbor to try to break the record set by Stu years ago and broken only last year by only 1 minute. Provide inspiration for cancer survivors. A custom-prepared boat with 2,700 horsepower in 2 Mercruiser 1350 engines, driven by Stu Hayim and throttled by world champion John Tomlinson. Years of championship talent were in the cockpit, and these 2 men set out to prove a point. averaging between 135 and 140 miles an hour in the calm waters of Long Island Sound, going out to Orient Point. They were way ahead of the record. As they rounded the treacherous waters of Montauk, however, the seas built to the point where their speed was reduced to only 95 to 110 miles per hour in spurts. As they climbed over these seas, they endured some enormous impacts. They knew they'd break the record, but by how much? Big seas can also be dangerous, but the experience in the cockpit paid off as they roared across the Atlantic Ocean. Turning into New York Harbor and the familiar sight of Lady Liberty, John Tomlinson once again spooled up those motors. Hitting speeds between 135 and 140 miles an hour that gave the New York skyline a high-speed treat. Rounding the final turn at the Throgs Neck Bridge, John really put the hammer down and hit between 150 and 160 miles an hour, crossing the finish line. The record was once more Stu Hayim. And once more dedicated to cancer research. In fact, they did it in 2 hours and 11 minutes, 54 minutes faster than anyone in history. The record will stand for a long time unless Stu himself decides to break it.
And here we are with Stewie Hayim after breaking the record, resetting the record now at 2 hours and 11 minutes. Stewie, tell us how you did it.
John Tomlinson did it. Right there. That's who did it. We got real fortunate, thank you, with weather, and Mercury Power always, from day one, always worked for us. A great boat, and it just, all the pieces came together. A lot of it was hard work, but a lot of it was just good fortune in the form of the weather.
Now tell us about the cause, the cancer cause that you raised money for.
Don Monte Memorial Research Foundation. Mrs. Monte walked down the hall, sat on my bed when I was sick, and put her hand on my knee and said, "I lost my son, I'm not going to lose you." Wow. So to see what we could do to pay back them and for the next generation, it's easy. This is the fun part. I warned you, sitting in this very chair almost exactly 2 years ago, that if someone didn't want this record, if someone couldn't smash this record, I was going to get off my butt and do it myself. And you know, speaking of promises, I made a promise to Mrs. Monte decades ago. I guess the operative word here would be comeback. This record-breaking attempt, which turned out to be pretty successful, it gave me a chance to have a comeback and strap a 15 or 16,000 pound missile on my back and go boat racing again. That, as I said, that was the fun part. It gave us a chance to show people that you can be sick and you can get better, that there can be good endings to these stories. And probably most importantly, it gave us a chance to team up with the Monte family again, where we know that the monies we raise go right to the researchers and the scientists where it's so sorely needed. So that made it the best comeback of all.
Come on with me.